Do you remember the first time you truly felt alive? I don't mean the day you were born or some distant childhood memory. I mean that moment, perhaps just a fleeting one, when you felt so connected, so present, so alive that nothing else mattered. The noise of the world disappeared, and for once, everything felt exactly as it should. Think about it for a second. When was the last time you felt that way? And if it's been a while, I want to ask you, why? You see, life doesn't wait for you to figure it out. It doesn't sit in the corner patiently hoping you'll catch on one day. Life is happening right now. While you're sitting here, breathing in this moment, life is surging forward. The world is spinning. The seconds are ticking. And here's the truth most of us don't want to face. Most of us are just watching. We're standing on the sidelines of our own existence, waiting for some invisible signal, some external permission to start living as though we matter. But the truth is simpler than we allow it to be. If you want to live a life that feels extraordinary, you have to start acting like you already have it. Not tomorrow, not someday, not when the stars align or when someone else decides you're ready. Now, right now. And yet, when I say this, there's always that resistance, isn't there? You might be feeling it even now. The voice in your head starts whispering, but what about my circumstances? You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what I'm dealing with. And you're right. I don't know the exact details of your story. But here's what I do know. Your life is shaped far more by the stories you tell yourself than by the circumstances you find yourself in. Let me say that again, because it's important. The way you narrate your life, the way you choose to interpret everything that happens to you, will either imprison you or set you free. I once heard about a man who worked as a janitor in a massive corporate building. He spent decades pushing a mop, cleaning up after people who didn't even notice he existed. One day, someone asked him, "How do you stay so positive? Doesn't this job wear you down?" Do you know what he said? He smiled, leaned on his mop, and said, "I'm not just a janitor. I'm creating a clean and welcoming space where people can come to work and do their best. I'm a part of something bigger." Now let that sink in. Same job, same building, same mop, but a completely different narrative. That man wasn't waiting for some far-off dream to validate his worth. He wasn't trapped in someday. He had already decided he was living a life. And what about you? What story are you telling yourself about your life right now? Is it one of scarcity, of waiting, of almost? Or is it a story of abundance, of purpose, of acting as though every single thing you've ever wanted is already within your grasp? I know what you might be thinking. You might say, that's easier said than done. And I get it. I really do. Life isn't always fair. It's messy and unpredictable, and sometimes it feels like the odds are stacked against us. But let me ask you something. Do you believe that life is happening to you? Or do you believe that life is responding to you? Because how you answer that question changes everything. If you believe life is just happening to you, then you're a passive participant. You're reacting. You're at the mercy of everything and everyone around you. But if you believe life is responding to you, then you realize something incredible. You have the power to influence what shows up in your world. Let me explain what I mean. Have you ever noticed how certain people seem to carry a kind of magnetic energy? It's not about how they look or how much money they have. It's not even about what they say. It's the way they walk into a room as though they belong there. It's the way they carry themselves, as if they're already living the life of their dreams, even if their external circumstances haven't caught up yet. And here's the thing. Those people aren't lucky. They're not special. They've simply decided to stop waiting. They've chosen to act as though the life they want is already theirs. And in doing so, they set something in motion that the rest of us can't quite explain. Doors open. Opportunities find them. People gravitate toward them. It's not magic. It's alignment. When you start showing up for your life as though it already matters, the world starts to respond. What are you waiting for? You don't have to have all the answers to start acting as though you're already living your dream life. You don't need permission. You don't need guarantees. You just need to decide. Decide that you're worthy of the life you dream about. Decide that you're capable of doing something extraordinary. Here's the secret no one tells you. The moment you start acting as though your dreams are real, they begin to become real. Not because the world suddenly hands you everything you want on a silver platter, but because you change, you begin to show up differently. You begin to speak and think and act from a place of belief, not doubt. And when you believe in something deeply enough, the world can't help but take notice. So if you're waiting for a sign, this is it. If you're waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to dream big, to live boldly, to start today, let this be that permission. But don't just sit here nodding along. Don't let these words wash over you and then return to life as usual. That's the trap so many of us fall into, isn't it? We feel inspired for a moment, and then the weight of our habits pulls us back. So here's my challenge to you, right? The next time you wake up, before you let the world tell you who you are, remind yourself who you want to be, and then act like that person. Speak like them. Walk like them. Think like them. And when it feels hard, when the doubts creep in and the circumstances of your life threaten to pull you back, ask yourself, what would your future self, the one living your dream life, want you to do right now? Would they want you to shrink back, to give in to fear, to play it safe? Or would they want you to rise up, to take a risk, to step boldly into the unknown? The truth is, the person you're waiting to become is already inside you. You don't need to find them. You just need to uncover them, and you do that by living as though they already exist. Because they do. Let's go deeper into this, because I want to make something abundantly clear. This isn't just about pretending or faking it. It's not about slapping on a smile and ignoring the challenges in your life. Acting as if you are living your dream life is about shifting your entire way of being. It's about aligning your thoughts, your actions, your energy, and your choices with the life you want, not the life you're stuck in. Think about the habits you carry with you every day. The routines, the self-talk, the way you respond to challenges, are they serving the life you want to create, or are they reinforcing the life you're trying to escape? This is where the real work begins. Because to act as if you're living your dream life means you have to let go of the habits, beliefs, and behaviors that no longer fit the version of yourself you're becoming. Let's talk about fear for a moment. Because fear is one of the biggest obstacles that keeps us from stepping into our dream lives. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of disappointment. And here's the thing about fear, it's incredibly convincing. It has a way of whispering in your ear, what if you try and it doesn't work? What if people laugh? What if you're not good enough? But let me ask you that. What if failure wasn't the end, but just a step? What if judgment wasn't something to be feared, but something to rise above? What if you are good enough? And the only thing standing between you and your dream life is the belief that you're... I want to tell you a story. There was a woman who dreamed of becoming a dancer, but she started late, too late, according to everyone around her. She wasn't as skilled as the others in her class. She didn't have the natural talent or the years of training they had. But she loved to dance. She loved it more than anything. So she made a decision. She would show up to every practice as though she belonged there. She would carry herself like a dancer. She would speak like one, move like one, breathe like one. And do you know what happened? She became one. Not because the world suddenly decided to make space for her, but because she decided to make space for herself. Where in your life are you waiting for permission to step into your dream? Where are you holding back? Waiting for someone to tell you? It's okay, you're ready now. Because here's the truth. No one is coming to give you that permission. You have to give it to yourself. You have to decide that you're ready. Even if you're scared, even if you're unsure, even if you don't have all the answers. And let's be honest. If you wait until you feel completely ready, you'll be waiting forever. Because the truth is, none of us ever feel fully ready. Not for the big things. Not for the dreams that stretch us and challenge us and force us to grow. But that's the beauty of it. Growth doesn't happen in the safety of certainty. It happens in the uncertainty, in the risks, in the moments when you leap and trust that the net will appear. You know those people you look up to? The ones who seem to have it all figured out? I promise you, they don't have some secret code you don't. They're not braver, smarter, or luckier than you. The only difference is that they've learned to act as if they belong in the life they want. They've learned to move through their fear instead of letting it paralyze them. So how do you start? How do you begin to act as if you're already living your dream life when it feels so far away? You start small. You start with one moment, one choice, one step. Maybe it's waking up and dressing like the person you want to be even if no one else sees it. Maybe it's speaking up in a meeting when your instinct is to stay quiet. Maybe it's making time for that creative project you've been putting off, even if it's just for 10 minutes. The point isn't to transform your entire life overnight. It's to begin shifting your energy, your focus, and your actions toward the life you want. And as you do, something incredible starts to happen. The more you act as if your dreams are real, the more real they become. Not because the world changes instantly, but because you change. You start to see opportunities where you once saw obstacles. You start to take risks you once avoided. You start to believe in yourself in a way you never have before. And let me tell you something about belief. It's contagious. When you believe in yourself, other people start to believe in you too. They start to see the potential in you that you've chosen to see in yourself. And that's when doors start to open. That's when things begin to shift. But it all starts with you. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but what if I try and fail? What if I give it everything I've got and it still doesn't work? And to that, I say, so what? Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of it. Every step you take, every risk you embrace, every moment you spend acting as if your dreams are real, it all moves you closer to the life you want, even if the path isn't straight. And in the process, you grow. You learn. You become the kind of person who is capable of living the life you dream about. So let's come back to you. Right here, right now. Who are you choosing to be in this moment? Not someday, not when things get easier or more convenient. Right now. Who are you choosing to be? Because the truth is, your dream life isn't some distant day. It's not waiting for you in the future. It's being built, moment by moment, choice by choice, right now. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to start. Start showing up for your life as though it matters. Start treating your dreams as though they're worth the effort. Start acting as if you are already the person you've always wanted to be. If I were to follow you around for a day, just one ordinary day, and I had no idea what your dreams or aspirations were, could I figure them out by watching how you lived? Could I see your vision in the way you carry yourself? Would your actions, your words, and your choices tell the story of the life you're trying to create, or would they tell me something entirely different? This is not a judgment. It's an invitation to be honest with yourself. So many of us spend our days on autopilot, moving through routines that don't align with the lives we truly want. We say we want one thing, but we act as if we're resigned to something. And the truth is, we don't realize how much power we have. Every day, in the smallest ways, we're either building a bridge to our dreams or reinforcing the walls that keep them out. The walls, most of them were built by us. They're made of the stories we've told ourselves over the years. Stories about what's possible, about what we're capable of, about what we deserve. Think about your own stories. What are the things you've told yourself, maybe for years, that have shaped how you see yourself and your potential? Maybe you've said, I don't have enough time, or I'm just not good at that, or people like me don't get to do things like that. Whatever those stories are, they're not facts. They're not immutable truths about the world. They're beliefs. And the beautiful thing about beliefs is that they can be rewritten. So here's a question. If you could rewrite one belief about yourself today, just one, what would it be? What belief would you replace with something that lifts you up instead of holding you down? Let me share another story. There was a man who always dreamed of being a writer, but he grew up in an environment where creativity wasn't encouraged. Get a real job, people told him. And so he pushed that dream down and did what he thought he was supposed to do. But deep down, the dream never went away. It was always there, quietly waiting. One day, he found himself staring at a blank notebook, feeling the weight of all those years of doubt. And then he decided, I'm going to write even if no one ever reads it. I'm going to write not because I know I'll succeed, but because it's who I am. That decision didn't instantly make him a best-selling author, but it did something even more important. It freed him. It allowed him to step into the identity of a writer, to act as if he was already living the life he dreamed of. And over time, that choice, made over and over again, transformed his life. Now think about your own dream. Maybe it's not writing. Maybe it's starting a business or traveling the world or healing relationships or stepping into a version of yourself you've always imagined but never felt ready to become. Whatever it is, ask yourself, what would it look like to act as if it's already yours, not tomorrow, not when circumstances are perfect, right now? Here's the thing. The world doesn't need another person waiting for the perfect moment. The world needs people who are willing to show up, even when it's hard, even when it's messy, even when they don't have all the answers. And here's what, because when you show up for yourself, you give others permission to do the same. When you act as if your dreams matter, you remind the people around you that theirs do too. Have you ever noticed how energy is contagious? Walk into a room where people are discouraged, and it's like the air itself feels heavy. But walk into a room where people are alive with possibility, and suddenly you feel like anything is possible. That's the power of belief. That's the power of acting as if. Now, some of you might be thinking, this all sounds great, but my situation is different. My challenges are bigger. My circumstances are harder. And let me say this, I hear you. Life isn't fair. Some people are born into privilege, while others have to fight for every inch of progress. It's not the circumstances that define a person. It's their response to those circumstances. It's the way they choose to show up, even when the odds aren't in their favor. I've met people who started with nothing. No money, no connections, no safety net, and built lives that were extraordinary. Not because they had it easy, but because they refused to let their circumstances dictate their future. And I've met people who seemed to have everything handed to them, but who lived in quiet despair because they never claimed their own agency. Your circumstances matter, but they do not have the final say. You do. And this is where acting as if becomes so powerful. When you act as if your dreams are real, you stop waiting for the world to change and start changing yourself. You stop waiting for permission and start giving it to yourself. You stop being a passive participant in your own life and start becoming the author of your story. What would your life look like if you showed up every day as the person you want to be? Not just occasionally, not just when it's convenient, but consistently, in every interaction, in every choice, in every moment. What would change? How would your relationship shift? How would your work evolve? How would you feel about yourself? Is the truth. The gap between where you are and where you want to be isn't as wide as you think. It's not a chasm. It's a series of small daily choices. It's the way you speak to yourself in the quiet moments. It's the way you invest your time and energy. It's the way you respond to challenges and setbacks. Let's talk about setbacks for a moment because they're inevitable. Acting as if doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It doesn't mean ignoring the challenges or denying the difficulties. It means facing them with the mindset of someone who believes in their own resilience. It means saying, this is hard, but I'm still here. This is painful, but I'm not giving up. This is a setback, but it's not the end. I want you to remember this. The person you are becoming is stronger than the challenges you are facing. The life you are building is worth the effort, the discomfort, and the uncertainty. And every time you choose to act as if your dreams are real, you're taking a step closer to making them so. Let me leave you with this thought. Right now, in this moment, you have a choice. You can continue living as you have, repeating the same patterns and telling yourself the same stories. Or you can choose differently. You can choose to step into the life you've always imagined. You can choose to act as if you are already the person you want to be. It won't be easy. It won't be comfortable, but it will be worth it because the truth is you are capable of so much more than you know, and the life you dream of, it's not as far away as it seems. Let me share something with you. A truth that many people overlook. Your life, as it exists right now, is a reflection of what you've believed about yourself up until this moment. Your relationships, your work, your health, your mindset, they're all mirrors showing you the stories you've lived by and the choices you've made. This might be hard to hear because it places responsibilities squarely in your hands. But here's the beauty of it. If your life is a reflection of your beliefs, then you have the power to change it. Not by waiting for someone to hand you a different mirror, but by changing what it reflects. What are you reflecting right now? Are you reflecting doubt, fear, hesitation? Or are you reflecting courage, faith, and determination? What would happen if you started to reflect the life you dream of instead of the limitations you've accepted? There's a story I want to share about a young woman. She had always wanted to start her own business, but for years, she told herself it wasn't the right time. She thought she needed more experience, more money, more certainty, and so she waited. But deep down, the dream never left her. It just became heavier. One day, someone asked her a question that changed everything. What would you do today if you believed you were already capable? That question struck her like lightning. She realized she'd been living as though her dream was far away instead of stepping into it right now. So she did something radical. She began to act as if her dream business already existed. She didn't quit her job or take a huge financial risk right away. Instead, she started small. She carved out an hour every evening to work on her idea. She began talking about it to people as if it was real. She made decisions as if she were already the CEO of her dream business. And do you know what happened? Bit by bit, her actions created momentum. What started as a series of small, consistent steps became a full-fledged business that transformed her life. That's the power of acting as if. It's not about faking it until you make it. It's about living into the truth of who you are becoming. It's about bridging the gap between your present and your future by bringing your future into your present. It's about saying, this is who I am now, and letting that identity guide every choice you make. They need to have all the answers before they start. They think they need to feel confident, secure, and prepared before they take the first step. Let me tell you something that might surprise. Your confidence doesn't come first. Action does. Confidence is a byproduct of doing. You don't wake up one day feeling ready. You become ready by stepping forward even when you're scared. Ask yourself this. What is one small action you could take today to step into the life you want? Not tomorrow, not next week, but today. Maybe it's having a conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe it's setting aside 30 minutes to work on that dream you've put on hold. Maybe it's saying no to something that's been draining your energy so you can say yes to yourself. Every action you take sends a message to the universe about what you believe you deserve. When you show up for your dreams, even in small ways, you're saying, I believe I am worthy of this. And when you don't, you're sending the opposite message. What message have you been sending? And more importantly, what message do you want to send from this moment forward? Let me tell you about a man I met years ago. He had a habit of saying, one day you've probably heard people say that, or maybe you said it yourself, one day I'll write that book, one day I'll start that business, one day I'll take that leap. This man had been saying one day for years. And then one day, he got some news that turned his world upside down. He was diagnosed with a serious illness. Suddenly, one day wasn't a guarantee anymore. And in that moment, he realized something profound. The only day that matters is today. With this new awareness, he started to live differently. He stopped waiting for the perfect moment and started creating it. He began to take risks, to follow his passions, to live fully, not in some distant future, but right here and now. And even though his life didn't last as long as he hoped, he told me before he passed that those final years were the most meaningful of his life. Because for the first time, he stopped holding back. You don't have to wait for a wake-up call to start living your life as if it matters. You can choose that today. You can decide right now that you're done with one day. You can make today the day you begin. I want to talk about fear for a moment because it's one of the biggest barriers to acting as if. Fear whispers all kinds of things in our ears, doesn't it? What if I fail? What if people judge me? What if I'm not good enough? Here's something to remember. So, sign. It's a signal. It's a sign that you're stepping into something bigger than yourself. And isn't that what growth is all about? The next time fear shows up, try this. Instead of letting it paralyze you, let it guide you. Let it remind you that you're on the edge of something meaningful. Let it fuel your courage, not your doubt. And remember, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward in spite of it. Think about a child learning to walk. They stumble, they fall, they cry, but they get back up over and over again. Why? Because they don't know any different. They haven't learned to be afraid of failure yet. They're not worried about what people will think. They just know they're meant to walk, and so they keep trying until they do. What would happen if you approached your dreams with that same determination? What if you stopped being afraid of falling and started focusing on the act of moving forward? You don't need permission to live your dream. You don't need validation from anyone else. You don't need to wait for the stars to align or for someone to tell you it's your time. It's already your time. You're already enough. The only thing you need to do is act as if you believe it. And I want you to picture this. A version of yourself that is completely aligned with the life you want to live. This version of you wakes up each day with purpose. They make choices that reflect their values and priorities. They don't let fear dictate their actions. They show up fully, even when it's hard. Can you see that version of yourself? Because here's the truth. That version of you is not a stranger. They're already inside you, waiting to be brought to life. So what's stopping you? What's the story you've been telling yourself about why you can't? And what would happen if you decided to rewrite that story starting today? The life you dream of isn't a distant destination. It's a path you create with every step you take. And the first step, it's deciding to act as if it's already yours. Let's pause here for a moment and breathe. Not the kind of breathing that keeps you alive, but the kind that reminds you you're alive, the kind of breathing that grounds you, connects you, brings you back to this moment. Because this moment is where everything begins. When you start to act as if you're living your dream life, the world begins to shift in subtle but powerful ways. Doors that once seemed sealed, shut start to open. People who once overlooked you suddenly take notice. Opportunities that felt out of reach begin to gravitate toward you. But this isn't magic, it's alignment. It's the energy you send out coming back to you like a ripple turning into a wave. And it all starts with how you show up today. Let's talk about showing up. So many people wait to show up fully in their lives. They wait until they feel like they've made it. But you don't make it by waiting. You make it by showing up now, messy, unsure, imperfect, and committing to the process. You make it by choosing to live in alignment with your dreams, even when the circumstances don't yet reflect them. Think about the small choices you make every day. What time you wake up, how you spend your time, how you talk to yourself, how you treat others. These choices are the building blocks of your life. They're the evidence of who you believe yourself to be. So, what do your choices say about you right now? And more importantly, what do you want them to say? There's something beautiful about small, intentional actions. They may seem insignificant in the moment, but over time, they compound, they gather momentum, they build a foundation for something greater than you ever imagined. And the best part, you don't have to know exactly where you're going to start. You just have to take the first step. Let me tell you about a man I once met. He had a passion for painting, but never considered himself an artist. To him, art was something other people did. People with formal training, galleries, or connections. So for years, he painted in secret, hiding his work even from his closest friends. One day, he decided to take a leap. He hung one of his paintings in his home, not in a corner or a closet, but on the main wall where everyone could see it. It was a small, simple act, but it changed everything. Seeing his work displayed reminded him of his dream, and it gave him the courage to share it with others. Today, his paintings hang in homes around the world. Not because he waited for permission, but because he acted as if he was already the artist he longed to be. That's the power of small acts of courage. They send a message to yourself and the world. I am stepping into my truth. And when you do that, something extraordinary happens. The world begins to meet you where you are. Now, let's address the voice of doubt. You know, the one I'm talking about. That voice that tells you it's too late, that you're not ready, that you don't have what it takes. That voice will always try to hold you back, but it only has as much power as you give. So here's what I want you to do. Thank the voice. Acknowledge it. Tell it, I hear you, but you don't get to drive this car anymore. And then take the wheel. Because no matter how loud that voice gets, you are stronger. You are braver. You are more capable than it wants you to believe. Think about the people who inspire you. The dreamers, the doers, the ones who seem to live with a light in their eyes. Do you know what sets them apart? It's not that they don't feel fear or doubt. It's that they choose not to let it stop them. They take the leap. They risk failure. They embrace uncertainty, and in doing so, they discover something incredible, that the life they dreamed of was always within reach. I want to leave you with a thought that I hope will stay with you long after today. Imagine you're at the end of your life looking back on everything you've done, everything you've experienced, everything you've created. What do you want to see? Do you want to see a life lived in fear, hesitation, and regret? Or do you want to see a life that was bold, passionate, and true to who you are? Because that choice, the choice to live fully, begins. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture yourself 1 year from now. You've started acting as if your dream life is already yours. You've taken risks, faced fears, and made choices that align with your deepest desires. How does it feel? What's different about your life? What's different about you? Hold on to that vision, let it guide you, let it inspire you, and then open your eyes and take the first step toward it. You are capable of more than you know. You're braver than you feel. And you are worthy of the life you dream of, not someday, not when things are perfect, but today. So act as if you already are the person you long to be. Act as if your dreams are already coming true. Act as if the life you want is not a distant possibility, but a present reality. And watch how the world begins to shift in your favor. This is your moment. This is your life. Go live it.